Right now, my special guest, Arizona Senator Ruben Gallego. Does he believe Democrats cave to Republicans? Does Chuck Schumer have a future? And why did he cash a paycheck during the shutdown? We get answers to those questions and much more.
And it's an honor now to sign this incredible bill and get our country working again. Thank you very much.
We start with the end of the longest government shutdown in U.S. history, 43 days. Air travel still in recovery mode. Food stamp benefits have been fully funded, and back pay for federal workers should show up in their bank accounts by later in the week. Arizona Senator Ruben Gallego voted no on ending the shutdown. In a conversation this past week, the Phoenix Democrat explained his vote and much more. Did your fellow Democrats cave to Republicans and President Trump to end the shutdown?
Look, I wished I could say that this ended the way I wanted it to end it. My goal was to make sure that 24 million Americans, hundreds of thousands of Arizonans, did not see their insurance rates premiums doubled. My colleagues that did vote, 8 of my colleagues that voted to end this shutdown, believe that they have a better chance at trying to solve the insurance problem by negotiating while the government's open. I disagree, and I think I hope to be wrong. I want 24 million Americans to have affordable health insurance, but I suspect that that's not what happens.
Suspect.
Yeah.
I mean, there's Republicans have shown no inclination at all to help the Affordable Care Act at all. President Trump tried to kill it back.
Yeah, no, I get it. This is why my position was very strong the whole time that, shutdowns suck. Right? It hurts everybody. But what's really going to hurt this country is when 24 million Americans are suddenly going to have their insurance premiums doubled. We're hearing horrible stories. Now, we have to December 15th now if these guys decide to get going. And if they want to have any chance of political survival next year, they're going to have to solve this. Everything's too damn expensive as it is right now. And now Republicans, through inaction, are going to raise insurance premiums on millions of Americans.
House Speaker Mike Johnson has said he's not going to have a vote, has shown an inclination to have a vote in this. So really, there's nothing there. So go back to your...
Then you'll be former House Speaker at that point.
If you wanted to keep it going, keep the shutdown going, you're facing millions of people needing help with getting food, putting food on the table, a possible mess at Thanksgiving, the busiest holiday travel day of the year. Would you have kept going despite all that? Was it acceptable to keep going given some of that real pain and call it suffering at the airports?
Yeah, none of these options are great. As a matter of fact, we had been introducing different pieces of legislation, for example, to pay air traffic controllers, to keep SNAP benefits going. A lot of them were actually rejected by the Republicans and not even given a floor vote. So they understood what they were doing. They were putting pressure by putting as much hurt on Americans and hoping that Democrats, which some of them did, would crack. None of this is easy. None of this was ever going to be easy. But what we know from past shutdowns is that everyone gets paid back. You will, if you're an air traffic controller, if you're a government employee, you're going to get your checks. You're going to get paid back everything, contractors too. What does not happen is when 24 million Americans lose affordable health insurance, 4 million right away. 24 million Americans are going to have to start paying January 1st, almost double the premiums. And I'm not talking a couple $100s. We're hearing stories of people that are going to have to pay $2,000, $3,000 more a month. And that's just something that we should not have ever put Americans in that position.
So you would have kept going, though, despite all that you described?
I would have kept negotiating and trying to find different ways to actually ease the pain that everyday Americans were feeling, right? For example, supporting bills that would have paid government workers, that would have paid air traffic control, that would pay out SNAP benefits, to make sure that there's a way for us to continue fighting while at the same time holding as many people harmless as possible. Again, none of this is easy, right? Part of being in leadership is you have to make decisions like that. But I know, as someone that grew up poor, as someone that had to figure out how to make a budget, if you suddenly change the insurance premiums on so many Americans, these are families we're talking about, you're going to permanently affect them and the economy.
Should Chuck Schumer step down?
Right now, those decisions are always made after an election cycle.
If the election for leader were being held today, would you vote yes or no?
I'd have to wait and see to see what happens to the elections, because what matters for us, what power we have, is can we win back control? And that decision, and when we get together, according to our rules, is 2026, and then I'll make a determination then.
So November 2026 is when you'll look at this again?
Yes, yes. We're going to, because we need to figure out about, whether we're going to be able to win or lose. And if we can't, we have to make sure we have enough, fighting power to get there. unless something drastically changes, those decisions need to wait till the midterm.
You say you want to keep going. Did he, as Senate Democratic leader, get rolled by a minority in order to end the shutdown?
I think that's, a very honest assessment. I think, from our conversations and conversations among senators who wanted to keep going and fighting for health insurance, make sure people had health insurance, affordable health insurance, a lot of us felt that we were pushed by these 8. And the Senate's a very different world than the House. If you decide to go on your own, it's very hard to bring them back. And again, the consequence of this is potentially 24 million Americans not having health insurance.
Now, you've taken a lot of heat for continuing to collect a paycheck through the shutdown. I think members of Congress are paid $175,000 a year or so. Are you still collecting a paycheck? And how do you explain that to constituents and the folks we've talked about who have been suffering over these past several weeks?
Well, because it's all, it's useless symbolism. Most of these senators are millionaires. Some of them are billionaires, right? Some of them have pensions. Some of them are living off Social Security. So they're not sacrificing anything. And I grew up poor. I don't need to make myself poor to understand and empathize what's happening, right? I understand how hard it is to make bills. I understand how it is to miss bills. But I also understand the importance of having affordable health insurance. So all these guys are saying, give up your paycheck. Are they going to give up their health insurance? Because they get some really good government-funded health insurance. All these guys that were, talking big game, come December 15th, when insurance premiums go up for 24 million Americans, they're still going to get their very well-funded government health care, affordable health care through the Affordable Health Care Act. And so, where was the empathy there? Where's the empathy when they dropped 60,000 Arizonans from SNAP benefits? Nothing. Where was the empathy when they dropped hundreds of thousands of Arizonans from Medicaid? Nothing. They get to keep their money, they keep their health insurance, and they're just playing games instead of just focusing on how to actually help people.
So you have no qualms when you're walking through TSA on the way back to Phoenix, to the airport back to Phoenix?
I talk to those guys all the time.
Making nothing.
I talk to them all the time. They know that I'm fighting for them because those families also need reliable health insurance. Also, let's be clear. These are the same Republicans that were fine when hundreds of thousands of government workers were getting fired all year. They're fired without any severance, fired without health insurance, fired without even any modicum of respect, and now they care about them. No. They only care about them when they can use them, right? But they don't really care about them in the long sense, because they were fine when the VA employees were getting fired. They were fine with air traffic controllers were getting fired. It's only now when it's convenient for them to be able to leverage that and stop people from getting health insurance that they pretend to care.
I want to go back to the Affordable Care Act, and it seems there's kind of a double whammy going on right now. It looks like the end of the enhanced tax credit on January 1st, which seems very, very likely to happen, is going to drive costs way up. At the same time, it's going to drive people off the exchange, which creates a risk pool, leaves behind a risk pool of people on it who are more expensive to cover. And so what will January look like, and what could February look like?
January is going to look really bad. You're going to have insurance premiums double. You're going to have probably 4 million people across the country that are just going to not buy insurance. Even if you're not on the Affordable Health Care Act subsidy, even if you're getting private insured, you're going to see your premiums probably jump next year, because when these people jump off and not have health insurance, they're going to start using emergency rooms. They're going to start using other types of aid that will end up driving costs up. And so we're going to see in a year where we're dealing with inflation, where food is more expensive, electricity is more expensive, housing is more expensive. The inaction of the Republicans and Donald Trump it will cause insurance premiums to jump for almost all Americans.
But more than that, is this the beginning of the end for the Affordable Care Act, given that double whammy, those two hits?
No, I don't think so, because
if it becomes unaffordable for many, many more people.
Right. Well, I mean, what will likely happen is that the Republicans are going to end up losing the 2026 election. Before, it was pretty certain it was going to be the House. With them doing this, they're probably going to also lose the Senate. And I think that gives us the opportunity to fight to at least bring back the Affordable Care Act for those people that need those enhanced assistance.
Republican critics often blame President Joe Biden for this fix.
They blame everything on Joe Biden. He's been gone.
But in this case, Joe Biden passed, and I assume you voted for, the enhanced benefits with the expiration date of January 1st, 2027.
Well, we didn't want to. We didn't want
2026.
Yeah, no, we didn't even want that. But that was.
But you voted for it.
Well, we voted for it, or else it wasn't going to pass at all. It was an either or. So, you never want to pull the rug out, right? And that's one thing that we're trying to communicate to the Republicans. Hey, let's negotiate. They have some legitimate things that I'd be willing to understand and reform. We could even do another, date certain where we have to come back and negotiate again. But this idea that Americans every day that are hurting right now are suddenly going to just have this sudden change without us having any off-ramp is just cruel.